For women inside of the Third Reich, Hitler wanted them to have as many children as possible for his empire. There were a few women who were involved in the inner circle of the Führer, and some of them had tragic and harrowing downfalls. Many could not live without their dictator, and took steps to ensure that if he died, then they would follow him after. But one woman who is a forgotten wife of one of the most senior Nazis was Inge Ley. Compared to her husband, the small, alcoholic and unpredictable head of the German Labour Front, Robert Ley, Inge was tall, blonde and beautiful. Hitler himself was very keen on Inge, and he even put her up when she attempted to leave her husband, and the Nazi dictator invited her to his mountain retreat to have some rest. Inge Ley has been described as a ravishing blonde, but she was incredibly unhappy throughout her life, and she brought this to an end in harrowing fashion, caused by the horrific circumstances of her life with her destructive husband inside of the Third Reich. Today we look at the death of Inge Ley, possibly Hitler's secret lover. More on this later. To support, please make sure to subscribe. Inge Ursula Splicker was born on the 8th of March 1916, and she was the daughter of a relatively successful opera and concert singer, and her mother was also an opera singer too. She was destined for a career in the arts, and along with her sister they were given singing lessons by their parents. She was noted for having a very good voice, and Inge performed at the Friedrichstadt Palast, and it was here where she first met her future husband Robert Ley. Ley was an ardent Nazi who had many significant issues. He had been in a plane crash during the First World War, and following Ley's death after World War II, it was discovered that he had a significant brain injury, which led to his erratic behaviour and stammering speech, and he later turned to alcoholism. But Inge was a very beautiful woman. She was tall and slender and had striking blonde hair. She was everything that a Nazi would want from a wife, and some historians have even considered that the ultimate Nazi himself, Adolf Hitler, was struck by her good looks and by her beauty. Inge met Hitler for the first time in 1936, 3 years after he had become Chancellor, and during the period of time in which the Nazis were in control over Germany. Hitler during this first meeting was taken aback by Inge, but she was a guest of Robert Ley, the head of the German Labour Front. She went on a trip to Italy with Robert in 1936, and they went on a voyage together on one of the German Labour Front boats. One of Ley's policies was strength through joy, offering German workers subsidised holidays on ships, and one was even named after him. But his relationship with Inge was becoming spoken about in the highest Nazi circles, and Inge was someone who could have married anyone, and she began a relationship with the alcoholic, stammering and bumbling Robert Ley. He was someone who at the time was rather powerful, and the pair married on the 20th of August 1938. Robert Ley had been married before, and was practically twice of Inge's age, being 26 years older than her. They had very little in common. To begin with, their marriage appeared okay, as they went on their honeymoon, even on board the ship named after Robert Ley, and Hitler even went on honeymoon, strangely, with them. But it was during these times that Hitler kept a close eye on Inge, and it's considered that Hitler may have at some point considered the tall blonde Inge as a potential wife and girlfriend. It's likely that Eva Braun, Hitler's girlfriend of the time, may have even felt threatened by her. But Hitler made sure that Inge knew he was always there for her, and he became a shoulder for her to cry on. He would strangely visit the pair often twice a week inside of their villa in Berlin, probably just to see Inge, as Robert Ley was not one of the most powerful of the inner circle, or most popular. He was overshadowed by men such as Himmler and Goering, and during World War II he fell from prominence in favour of others such as Todt and Speer. So why did Hitler visit so often? It must have been to see Inge. Hitler in 1940 even gave the couple a gift worth 1 million Reichmarks, and with this they bought a farm. Inge enjoyed life on the farm as opposed to the Nazi stronghold and bastion of Berlin, but Berlin was important for her husband's work. The couple had 3 children, and they had a number of staff. But Adolf Hitler continued to visit the farm and the house in Berlin. But her husband was benefiting from the charm of his wife, especially as Inge charmed Hitler and captured his attention. But she was not all too well. Inge Ley had suffered for many years with issues relating to her stomach, and during her first pregnancy she had to have her appendix removed, but she suffered with bile colic, which got worse and worse, and the Nazi doctors prescribed Inga with significant amounts of morphine, and she became very dependent on this, like some other Nazis such as Hermann Goering also were. Whilst the war was ongoing, Inga actually wrote a children's book titled Once Upon a Time, Little Fairy Tales for Little People, and illustrated it herself. This was published and re-released. However, in March 1941, while she was 5 months pregnant, Inga, who was riding in a carriage, had an accident. Her carriage was near to a railway line, and a train startled horses pulling it, and Inga was thrown from the carriage. She continued to take morphine prescribed to her in larger amounts. However, as the Second World War began to turn against Germany, she became concerned about the Allied bombing raids while she was in Berlin. Inga was scared to live in the towns, and she lived in the countryside on the farm. She spent more time away from her estranged husband, and she did miss him, allegedly it's believed. She continued to take morphine and became more addicted, and was even taken to a sanatorium for a brief stay to be treated for this dependency. The treatment did not go well, and she went to another sanatorium in August 1942 for further treatment, but she was suffering with her mind very badly. In the final days of 1942, Inga remained at the farm, and there were lots of prisoners of war who were conducting slave labour on her property, and Hitler even insisted that she should be armed with a pistol and guards to protect her from the workers. Inga and Robert Ley continued to fight when they saw each other, and her depression got worse, and with the war effort also turning against the Germans, this also affected her mind. On the 29th of December 1942, Robert Ley planned to leave for the Führer headquarters where Hitler was, and allegedly whilst the couple were waiting for the Nazi car to pick Robert up, Inga went into her bedroom after having a fight with her husband. She then locked the door of the bedroom, pulled out a pistol, and shot herself. Her husband ran upstairs and tried to unlock the door, and when they burst open, they found Inga lying on the bed with a single shot to her forehead. She had suffered in her final few years from a great amount of physical and mental pain, and a note was found showing she had been intending this course of action for some time. Inge Ley was buried in the oak grove on the farm in Gut Rotland, her family home, and Robert Ley shockingly did not want much to do with his children after his wife's death, and he sent them to go and live with Inga's parents. But what is not very well known is that Inge Ley regularly visited Hitler for some comfort and support, and there were times that she travelled to see Hitler without her husband. She felt safe around Hitler, and she would open up to him about the marital issues she faced. She also went to the Berghof, the mountain retreat, many times on her own. It's not known whether she and Hitler had any form of physical relationship, or whether he just found her beautiful, but it was strange for this young woman, in her 20s, to go and visit the Führer. He wrote to her regularly also. For example, in one note that was recently sold for $5,000, Hitler claimed, "Madame, please accept these lines and flowers as a sign of my condolences. Please accept my apology for doing so now. I've only just learned about it." This letter, it's believed, was sent to Inga following her accident, and Hitler also sent her a huge bouquet of flowers, and probably did more for her than her husband did. He was also rather upset when Inge Ley passed away. This was expressed in a letter he sent to Robert Ley. Hitler wrote, "My dear Ley, I want to express to you my heartfelt emotion for the terrible misfortune that has affected you. When I first received the news of the tragic event, it was completely incomprehensible to me. I know how much you loved your wife, and can grasp the great suffering her death has now caused. Nevertheless, I ask you to accept that we all have to bear above our own lives the duties imposed upon us in totality, in a world in which millions of men are swept away from their families, hundreds of thousands of women lose their husbands, mothers lose their sons. Each one of us has a duty to devote himself primarily to his work. It's not a lot harder. Germany collectively will take on hundreds of thousands of others. In this complete surrender to our duty, a man is more able to cope with his feelings and with his pain. At least you are lucky enough to have 3 children from your wife. As the leader of the movement and your loyal friend, I expect that especially now, you will be that which you were, the leader of the German Workers' Front. You are not alone in trying to overcome the voice of your heart, but you carry the same destiny as countless before, in loyal friendship and with deepest empathy." Hitler was deeply affected by the death of Ley's beautiful wife, and he had been enamoured with her for some years, and as mentioned, some historians do consider whether he and Inge Ley were lovers or whether they cared for each other romantically. She ticked many boxes for Hitler. She was a virtuous symbol of Aryan womanhood in her appearance, and she also regularly went to see Hitler to speak with him behind her husband's back. She was also a lot younger, in the way that Hitler liked. Hitler also visited strangely very often the Ley household. It would be interesting to find out if Eva Braun had any opinions on Inge Ley, to see how much of a threat she felt by her. But Inge Ley, the beautiful blonde, had a rather tragic demise and downfall. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.